Chair. Brief statement by the accounting officer on the effect of COVID-19 on the operation of Hioma Regional Referral Hospital. So I know you will just be able to guide us there. And then Agenda 5, consideration of the report of Auditor General, financial year 2018-2019. Then we call it a day. I hope do you have a copy of the agenda? Oh, okay. Thank you. So let's start. We request our clerk to lead us into a short prayer, and we do introduction. Clerk.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let us pray. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to their charge. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you, and let's introduce ourselves. I'd like to start with our technical team. We are present here. Let's introduce ourselves to our witness. Use the microphone. Use the microphone.
Sari Edward, Principal Auditor in charge of Hioma branch.
Sharon Nangonzi, Senior Auditor in charge of Hioma branch.
I'm Susan Aritze from Accountant General's Office attached to PAC.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Detective Sergeant Mr. Zanasan, CID Officer attached to the committee.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Claire Achan, a technician attached to the committee.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Emao Mikaya, a technical attached to PAC.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My name is Alex Onanyang, Assistant to the Vice Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My name is Gilbert Ainomjisha, the clerk to this committee.
Thank you. And we have from the 4th Estate, you're most welcome. I'd like to request
Moyaguma Wilberforce, Member of Parliament for Kashal North County and the Member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce your team.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Peter Mukobi by names, and I'm the Hospital Director for Hioma Regional Referral, also the Accounting Officer. And I request my colleagues to do the needful.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Hospital Director. My name is Henry Mugisha. I'm the Head of Accounts, Hioma Regional Referral Hospital.
Use the microphone.
I'm known by the names Wambire John, Assistant Accountant.
Thank you, Chair. Protocol observed. I'm Olor Geoffrey, Procurement Officer of the hospital.
Thank you, Chair. Protocol observed. David Sam is my name, Internal Auditor for Hioma Regional Referral Hospital.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Oken Pipi Ujara. I'm a Deputy Chair of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, but also I represent the people of Chua West, Kibum District. You're most welcome. I know you know why you're here, Accounting Officer. We are here just to meet the requirements of our constitutional obligation, especially in terms of how we are supposed to be able to utilize public resources. This is PAC, Public Accounts Committee. As you can see, we are trying to adhere to the guidelines issued by the Minister of Health. That's why you see a few members. But we hope some few others are going to join us. So you feel free. The main purpose of this exercise is not to victimize you, as you know, just to make sure we look at how you've been able to run your resources through the financial year 2018-2019. This is public money. It is supposed to be accounted for. And the way you use it actually matters a lot to the parliament and also to the taxpayers. So you feel free as possible to respond to the queries that the honorable members will be able to give you. And we hope you have also given your responses to the Auditor General queries. So feel as free as possible. Don't think we are here to victimize you. No, don't think. Sometimes, most people think when you come to park, that is a very hot committee of Parliament. But we also understand some of the technicalities in terms of the policy shortfalls. When you are trying to implement some activity, maybe you go overboard or maybe you go underboard. So these are the issues that we want to understand. We want to understand the challenges that you went through, especially when you were implementing your planned activities, how you've been spending the money. So that is briefly what I can say. You're most welcome with your team. The number, I think, is okay, but we hope they are key staff, because in most cases we would love to see that you bring key staff who will be able to respond to some of the queries. Human resource director, procurement, and I've seen accountant here, which is okay. So you feel free, and you should also understand that the opinion of the Auditor General on your account is actually qualified. I don't know whether you understand what qualification, what when an account has been qualified, what it means. It means your performance has not been good. It's not average. It's actually not okay. So we will also understand the basis why the Auditor General said no, this has been a major issue, and we would like to get you to explain to us. Normally what happens in PAC, when your account has been qualified for consecutively for 3 years, we tend to say no, maybe the accounting officer is not good enough to utilize public resources. So request the Treasury to say no, you see, this accounting officer, we are very sorry. If you want to continue with him, is at your own peril. But I would advise that maybe you get another one. So this is some of the things that we have been doing, because qualification for 3 consecutive times, it means there is a big problem. Either you are not concerned, or you don't understand what they are supposed to do, or you are concerned and you understand what you are supposed to do, but you are doing it to suit your own interests. These are issues that we normally grapple with. So you're most welcome. I would like you to request you then to come up with give us your brief about the issues of COVID-19, the effect, the impacts, how many patients have been admitted, what is the situation there in Hoima. One time there was a big panic in Kampala here in Uganda when somebody was scooped from Hoima and brought to Kampala, was from outside. So it was news all over the country. Actually, the very first cases of COVID was discovered in Hoima. So probably you would be able to tell us more in a brief form, maybe 3 minutes, if you can summarize it so that we go to the main issues. You're most welcome. Thank you. And feel free, the prayer has already been conducted. There is some bites here. It's going to be a work tea, coffee, I think. Mbali coffee is here. The chairman comes from Mbali. So he has always been giving us Mbali coffee. There's water, there is some bites. So feel free and grab whatever you want to grab. Thank you. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairman. Once again, Peter Mukobi by names, and Hospital Director of Hoima Regional Referral Hospital, also currently the Accounting Officer. Once again, I would like to say good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm straight to the point of where the agenda is requiring me to say something about COVID. Hoima Regional Referral Hospital to date has actually managed 15 COVID-19 cases, positive cases. And of course, this includes some of the cases that at one point were referred. In fact, if I include the one that was referred, that would be 16, that was from Hoima, was referred because by that time we were not ready as an institution. So a few hours down the road, we were ready because we had admitted another one just after that one had been referred. So we have so far admitted 15, and by yesterday at least we had discharged 2. So this morning there is a process going on to discharge a third one who has been cleared. Only one of the 15 was actually from Hoima district. 10 of these cases were referred from Ajumani district. So of late there is a lot of referral going on between districts, even far off from like Masaka. You find others in Entebbe upon referral. Reason being, some hospitals are full and they have to look for the next best place to manage. So 10 came from Ajumani and they have been with us for about a week. 2 from Chankwanzi, and then we have 1 from Bulisa. Then we also had a police officer from Masindi, who is among the people we discharged recently. So the institution per se, as a case management institution, we do have 30 ready beds, I would say. They are ready because they are dressed, the beds, but we can be able to host 40, much as some of the beds are not ready. Reason being because some of the requirements are missing on those beds. Of course, we just managed to convert one of the units because of its location to the COVID treatment center, and this was our mental health unit. It's a bit off the hospital, so we removed the patients, the mental health, brought them into the hospital, and then we converted it. As an institution, we didn't have an isolation center, so that's why we did that, because we had to really move. A few weeks down the road, we received about, it was actually 270 million from the Ministry of Health, and this was majorly to help us respond within the region. 270 million. 270 million. And majorly it is meant to be used for issues to do with case management, but within case management, the only thing which is touched there is about feeding the patients, the staff, and what we are calling now hardship allowance. We give staff some allowances in the hospital. But because we have a regional mandate, a lot of the money is also supposed to be doing some regional surveillance, regional supervisions, and trainings. So we have been involved much into training the surrounding districts. We are managing 8 districts in that region. So we go in, train the highest level facility with the expectation that that facility will be able to go down to their lower level facilities and also do the same. So that work is still going on, a lot of surveillance, and these funds were supposed to be used between April and June. And progress-wise, I think absorption is being good, and we believe that by the end of June, we shall be requesting for more funds, because the absorption has really been so high, much as it came in a bit late. It is worthwhile to note that this funding wasn't sufficient, because it catered for a few things. Our estimate by that time which we submitted was 960 million. The comprehensive estimate required. And this included things that were excluded in the 270 million. For instance, a very important component is fumigation. It was excluded. Issues to do with the infrastructure maintenance. There's a lot of infrastructure maintenance that we did, rehabilitation, in order to make it a better facility to house an isolation home. So the funding wasn't enough, but we are trying to manage it concurrently. We also had to tap into some other little existing funds from the other side. So by and large, much as we would love to of course use any available funds to respond, at the end of the day the effect has been that some of the desired interventions may not have been done because we had now to respond to an emergency that didn't have sufficient funds. Another insufficiency that occurred was in respect to human resources. We trained about 60 to 70 staff to be able to respond. However, this has implications on the rest of the hospital. Because once you are in that treatment unit, you're actually not supposed to go back to the other facilities. You're not rotated anywhere else until you're declared okay. So it has an effect to the rest of the hospital. We had to make some changes in the shifts, but of course it comes with other problems. People get too exhausted, they are prone to making mistakes. So the human resource side of it, there is still a problem. The Ministry of Health has sent us a few staff, so far about 5 or so have reported, but they can't cover the gap that has been caused by that response. On the other side, supplies, the consumption of the supplies, especially protective gear, like the masks, is now quite high. We routinely get frequent stockouts just because everyone has to use a mask. Yet wherever they come from, I think we are not able to satisfy the need. But there are also some other supplies, disinfectants, name it, they are also often not there because consumption has gone up. So by and large, we think that if the funds had been enough to cater for some of these things which were not catered for, we would be able to cover the gap. So we are encroaching on the previous gap already and even digging a deeper pit in regards to insufficiencies in supplies. Another major challenge which we have, which is an effect to the entire hospital, is that we are keeping some of the patients longer than we would love to. This one is majorly because actually the reason is because the results are taking long. For instance, I have some patients now who would have been discharged possibly if their results turned negative a week back, but we are still keeping them. Another one spent there 2 weeks longer is being discharged today. The results came yesterday. So there is a problem which is more central at the testing sites, UVRI, Makerere, and CPHL. There must be a problem there in being able to release results immediately. So it is affecting the entire operations to the extent that patients turn routed. Actually, I would even call it rioting, because they have broken doors, broken chairs, and this. So it is really unworthy. So by and large, those are the effects, and we think if they are addressed, we would actually have a better service delivery. I beg to move, Mr. Chairman.
So what do you do in terms of, how do you treat these people?
How do we treat?
Is there any specific treatment you are administering?
COVID-19 is managed majorly symptomatically. The treatment guidelines to date, the ones we have of Ministry of Health, talk about treating with chloroquine.
And is that what you've been using?
It is what we were using, yes, up to a certain extent. Because more we triangulate information in guidelines with even some other scientific evidence. And the beauty of it is that the advantage we have had, we haven't had any severe case. And most people we have just been treating symptomatic. You come in after 2 days, you develop maybe a mild fever, maybe with a cough, and we manage it symptomatically. Because we know that the virus itself, there is actually no medicine that kills it. So it is more of symptomatic.
So have you ever had any severe case? Somebody comes when the person is completely off?
No, we haven't. And I would say that we are.
So as a medical doctor, what is your view? It looks as if in the whole country we have not had any severe case. What is your view on that? Is it a good trend? Is it what is that in Uganda that makes not people to blow off, blowing off? I don't wish that myself, definitely, but is there anything unique that we are doing as Ugandans?
That
doesn't make us to appear like Southern Sudan. I've been seeing the list of generals. In Southern Sudan, 35 have already gone.
Yes, Honorable Chairman.
People are even rumoring that the president of Burundi might have actually died with the same thing. So in Uganda, what is happening? Are we on a luck? Is it good or what is happening?
Mr. Chairman, I would be cautious to say that we are lucky. It is more of a, we need to establish the regions scientifically, and it isn't yet established. Why? But of course, you can't rule out a possibility that we may be missing some cases. We may, for instance, be reporting 0 death, for instance, but maybe because the way our reporting system is structured, we actually can't easily capture a death in the community into the health information system. So that is a possibility, but it requires really an organized kind of scientific approach to establish the detail of why are we only getting the asymptomatic or the mildly sick people into the hospitals, and where the rest, when in countries around us people are dying. I believe there is something that needs to be answered through
is it possible to test somebody who has died?
To test somebody? Yes, it's possible.
So why are we not doing it to find out? Because you see this thing here, we don't really seem to understand.
Why we are not doing going around testing people who have died? First of all, our healthcare system is there is a lot of facility-basedness in what we do. But if it was to a COVID-related death or suspected to die, currently WHO discourages us to do any investigation on a death. So, you know, we are between kind of a wall and a hard place. WHO, we can't do, for instance, a post-mortem on a suspected COVID death. Luckily enough, we haven't got any. But that is the current stand. The in-depth reasons, they must be having them. We are not supposed to do post-mortems. But if there is to be done an investigation, it would be the usual swabs that we do and take for what we call a PCR test.
Doctor, why we are concerned about this? This is making Ugandans to be very reluctant. We all had the Minister of Health talking the other time that, you know, the way he has been seeing, when you go to Chikubu site there, you know, is actually business as normal, business as usual. You know, it's a normal business. People operating normally, they're interfacing normally. People are entering bars are even open. You know, it's like there is nothing wrong. And because people are thinking, you know, you see these patients here, we have now 700 and none of them have died. For me, even if I think I will survive. You see what I'm saying? So until we kind of get the real picture, the behaviors of Ugandans will remain almost the same. And by the way, to be honest, if they open this they start again lockdown, I don't think we are going to be able to observe it 100%.
Sure.
Because now you see people are as if there is nothing. So you scientists, you need to come up and do something, because otherwise 700 no reported death case. So the possibility that even if it's 800 that somebody is going to die is almost zero. Even 1,000. But yet in other sister countries we have been receiving information that people are dying. In Kenya, Tanzania, Southern Sudan, Rwanda, we have had cases of death. Why in Uganda? Why are we not dying? I'm sorry to say this, but it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing to say. I don't wish it needs to be answered. I really don't wish people to die. I don't also want to die myself. So, but why is the COVID? Is the COVID different?
No, it isn't different. It is exactly.
Or you are not testing the real thing?
We are actually testing the real thing. We are testing the real thing.
What is happening?
Mr. Chairman, You have the other health center posts and the health center series. Do they also get this protective gear?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Because ideally, all health workers, because you are all at the front line, a patient may come when he may be complaining of headache, whereas it is COVID. Now, what is the experience from my area is that it is only people in the region where these patients are delivered, these others don't have. How is the situation in Hioma?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, we do expect, the reason why we are training the hospitals in the districts is for them to go and train the lower level facilities, because this is where the patients will come from. They are closest to each and every one of us because of distance-wise. Now, they become our first line of defense, and we expect them to do a lot of screening. They may not go into the in-depth case management, but we expect them to be able to screen. So in essence, they are at the end of the day supposed to get supplies, including the protective gear. But where the challenge has been, it comes from where the source is, I believe vis-a-vis what their budget is, and this is National Medical Stores. I do know that they get insufficient items. They can't last them through a long period. That is the only problem, just like us. Actually, for us, we are lucky because we tap into a number of partners around us, and big partners, and they give us. The problem at the lower level facilities, they are relying more on only National Medical Stores, and it isn't enough. So they often have stockouts, so that's why the outcry is high, and of course they are now more vulnerable to being infected because we expect them to be screening. But if I'm not protected, I'm screening someone, it means that person will transmit to me, whether positive, at that time, they will transmit to me and I will refer to where next, because they are not, they don't treat, they are supposed to refer to us after they identify or suspect. So it is more of insufficient stock supply.
Anyway, you scientists, you need to do a lot so that we understand this thing. Otherwise, we are just there when people are dying and we don't know and we don't report. And we are sending a very bad signal to the people. People are always saying that Ugandans are resistant to COVID-19.
Which is not true.
Which is not true.
It isn't true. It isn't.
But it's going to be true when we are not dying.
Because we are genetically not different from all the other, at least for starters, Africans. We are not genetically different from
So
them.
you scientists among yourself, you need to continue discussing.
Yeah, it's a scientific question which requires some research questions.
Some bit of research and then we'll find out exactly what is happening. What is happening. So anyhow, I think thank you, Doctor, for your brief on COVID-19. We hope you will have the capacity to manage. If there is an upsurge, you should be able to manage your hospital. So let's get now to the main issue here. Honorable Hioma, you want to start straight away on the queries? We don't have to follow from 1 to 1 to 2 or whatever. But let me start with this. You met your non-tax revenue 176, but you transferred only 167. I think there was a balance of something like, I don't know, which you did not transfer to the consolidated fund. A balance of about 10 million, 9.9. What happened? Let's start from that, then we go to others. Why did you transfer 9.9? Actually about 10 million. Yes, accounts. What happened? Use the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's true, we didn't transfer certain portion of the NTR collected. The reason was that we issued an instruction to the bank to transfer, but by the time the instruction was executed, the financial year had lapsed, and we followed it up immediately after the financial year.
Where's the instruction? Can you have a copy of the instruction you issued to the bank?
Okay, we didn't carry it. I don't think we carried it.
Go ahead, yes.
But immediately the financial year ended, we transferred. But we got guidance from Accountant General on how to treat these payments. But before I say that...
Did you issue after the end of the financial year or before?
Before. But you know, the problem is we have been using a manual system of transferring money. You have to draw a check, then the whole bureaucracy of signing it and delivering it to the bank. By the time it's delivered in hard paper, it's normally late. However, what we have done now, we've put all our bank accounts on e-banking, also in the interest of social distancing and so on. Right now I'm able to sit anywhere and seek approval, email approval from my director, and initiate a transfer, which he also approves, and money goes to the bank. To avoid this manual system which has been delaying transfers of money to the consolidated fund. So we don't expect this kind of incident to happen again, Honorable Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Honorable.
they have said one of the causes of the day was the bureaucracy. Can you elaborate more about the bureaucracy? Who was there not to say?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, us being in a geographical location, different geographical location, like now we are here, all of us, you'll find we are an up-country branch of operations of government. So you'll find that inevitably, either I have to attend a workshop at Accountant General, or so we keep moving to coordinate with the center here in Kampala. So you'll find that the manual document comes in and we have to touch it and sign it. But now,
No, exactly where was the delay?
the delay was in the one, of course, from initiation from my side, initiation of the document.
Initiation?
Yes, one from initiation of the document. But I would like to tell you that...
So in other words, you did not initiate in time?
Yeah. So in other words, other players would not act without you initiating. Thanks for being a good Christian.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to, of course, take that. I also depend on, because someone has my cashier has to go to the bank physically to pick balances, to ask the bank how much is there. And sometimes you go to Stanbic, they say the network is not there. You know, we are challenged. So you'll find that for someone to bring back for you a cheat, oh, accountant, here we have now 9 million. Like now I'm racing against time for June. They have to give me feedback almost on a 2-day that now we have, because someone is busy banking NTR as we speak. So I'm racing against time to ensure that by midnight June, whatever will have been banked maybe at 1 or on 30th June, I transfer it. Sometimes due to the nick of time, you might not fully achieve that because the cashier is going to make sales on 30th June and he's going to bank them in the afternoon. Now that means, to be very efficient, I have to initiate within a matter of hours a check, a transfer document to the director on 30th June, and the probability of events has got to be, the accountant has to be there, the director has got to be there, and the bank should be very efficient to do the transaction. So sometimes it's really hard. But now I've been innovative, I've put all the accounts on I'm able to initiate a transaction to check even at midnight, before midnight at 11:30, and ensure that a transaction I can transfer to have zero. So it's really difficult to have to have no balance on these accounts.
We are assuming that money was not in the account by 30th of June.
Honorable Chair, that money was...
Are we correct when we make that assertion?
It's not correct, Honorable Chair, because we get...
Because if it is an automatic...
At that time it wasn't automatic at that time.
So it was not automatic that time?
At that time it wasn't automatic.
We need to give instruction to the bank. Provide what they call, what is it? Is it a standing order or what?
We have to get a manual document, a bank transfer document, which is a form given to us by the bank under the manual system they have been using. Then we get that form, and the two signatories have got to sign physically before transfer, and someone has got to get that document and deliver it on foot. Walk to the bank.
Can we get that instruction from the bank? We want to know when you made it.
Honorable Chair, we have a certificate of balances.
Where, which page is that? Is it in our document here?
It should be there. Yes. As an annex to our accounts. 3, 5, 6, 7. The seventh last annex. The bank certified that on that.
I'm seeing actually the total amount of money that we are talking 177. The one we are talking about. That was the balance. Am I reading something different? Is the 177 we are talking about?
Honorable Chair, we are talking about, let me get clarity from you.
Yeah.
I was about to show you evidence that this money was there on 30th June. The bank certified to us in a certificate of balances as an annex.
This is 9.6.
Yes.
The balance was there.
Yes, the bank certified that this money was indeed there or by close of that date, because as Accountant General guides, we should attach certificates of balances to our accounts.
Can we have a bank statement that is for that last month, that month of June?
So the bank certified that this money was indeed there, and we sought guidance from Accountant General, who always can, because out of their accounting treatment expectations, they give us how to treat these monies. Number one, the guidance we got, that we declare it as an asset of government, which is existing in the bank, which we did, Honorable Chair. And immediately thereafter, it was part of the first transfer of funds which we made to the Treasury as the NTR. Also, Accountant General has come up this financial year to give us further guidance on treatment of such incidents, which I think are occurring almost everywhere due to lapse of time, inefficiencies of banks. So they have given us a new treatment of balances from the previous financial year.
Mr. Chairman, are you aware of the law that requires you to transfer non-tax revenue intact to the consolidated fund by 30th June?
Yes, Honorable.
Not on 30th, but by 30th June.
Yes, Honorable.
You are aware of the law?
Yes, Honorable.
So are you aware of the penalties when you fail to do that?
Yes, Honorable.
You are aware? So you broke the law?
Honorable, I want to admit, yes, we broke the law, but in light of the difficulties we are facing on ground, I beg for your clemency, because the institution has gone a step further to ensure by electronizing all payments. We are not sleeping. We are trying our best to ensure that the law is adhered to the latter by making sure we do electronic transfers at any time of the day. So this will, to me, this will not happen again. Shouldn't happen again, because I can transact at midnight.
Yeah, you say this is an accountability committee. What you are telling us is you should tell it to the health committee, finance committee. We are looking at the past.
Yes.
Weren't you on IFM?
Yes, we are on IFMS, Honorable.
At that time, weren't you on that system?
At that time, we were on the system, Honorable.
Weren't you on that system? Can you confirm that you were not?
We were on the system, Honorable, by the time of this reported period.
You were on that system?
The hospital was on IFMIS, sir. The hospital was on the system.
Yes.
Yes.
Then that system would have helped you to transfer money at midnight. That is good.
Okay, let me make a clarification, Honorable.
Maybe it's because, and of course the system depends on you. Like you said, you never initiated.
Okay, Honorable, this is off system because we are currently operating. Right, but we have the certificate. We shall bring them.
What I want to confirm is, this money, was it received on 30th June? Or part of the money, was it received on 30th June, 29th June?
For now, what we are going to, Honorable.
In other words, why did you transfer 167, this 9, when did you receive this 9.6? Mr. Chairman, we may also need to know when did you transfer 169 million, 167 million? When?
Thank you, Honorable. We do transfer funds every now and then. Like, if you, the 167 you're seeing is an accumulated transfer. Out of that 167, we must have transferred.
The law says at the end of the financial year, balance of non-tax revenue will be transferred to consolidated fund. But if you are transferring from time to time, so when was the last component 107 million transferred?
The last component.
If you transfer 10 million, what, when?
Okay, Honorable Chair.
And I needed the bank statement.
Honorable Chair, we shall present the bank statement. I plead for your patience, Honorable Chair. We are going to bring the bank statement, but let me just make. For now, we have the certificate of balances, which confirms that by close of the year, that money was there. We shall present you the detail. We are going to bring you the detail of how the bank
the money was there. The issue is, according to the law, midnight, 30th June, all the balances should be transferred to the consolidated fund. According to the law, that is when you go to court, because finally we are making a report to Parliament. The accounting officer will be quizzed and questioned around this law.
Honorable Chair, we are going to bring the bank statement.
So why I need to know was actually there was 9.6 million received on 30th.
Okay. We are going to bring the bank statement to you with details on how the 9.6 accumulated by that time.
But you leave your microphone on, accounting officer, so that what you are saying can be captured.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you. The training I have in accounting is through another course, an MBA course.
Very good doctor appointed accounting officer without the CPR guy. When you study, you are able to take you step right. But these are still money. When you get a man like Kadinda, or a doctor, the guy will.
So we require the bank statement, and then the other one is that instruction to the bank. Have you carried the document?
Instruction to write up.
Is the instruction to write up, to transfer. Yeah. We want to know when exactly they did that and why they were not able to do it. So this one here got transferred now in this financial year.
Yes.
How do you treat just kind of in terms of accounts now for this financial year we are looking at. So how is it treated?
It will be an opening balance in the next set of accounts.
Opening balance?
In the next set of accounts, not in this one.
You are writing off advantage. That is a normal accounting practice, that when you have advanced.
Now that's where we are going now.
Yeah, when you have advanced someone money, then of course the contract, as you pay the contract, as he completes and the certificates are issued and you pay, then finally you write off that advance. That is the standing procedure.
Thank you, Honorable.
Maybe the auditor should also help us.
Yes, the procurement department will enter into an agreement, and once an advance is given for us in accounts, first of all, it should be recognized, because this is government money being paid out. But if at the close, by the time if the contract is executed, this advance, first of all, by definition, is a receivable. It's an asset, and it's an asset of government with someone, and to him he calls it a liability. So the recognition criteria, because first we accountants first find out, does this exist? If you called this man, will he say that I owe government this money? If the man by that time he has delivered on his works, then the recognition criteria in accounting does not hold, because this man has performed on his work. So an accountant recognizing this asset in the books is misleading the public that Hioma Hospital is rich. It even has 600 million or whatever figure with someone. So those books will be misleading, because we are looking for funding. Someone will say, but Hioma, you have even the luxury of someone having. So it is not, you cannot leave this in your books. Accountant General knows this, that once we know the history, that it was an advance due to contractual obligations and the contract has been delivered, then we recognize.
So, okay, what do you do to remove the figures from the books of account? So what did you do?
We first of all we do the reverse of what was done. At the time of recognition, they debited. They debited the receivable and then credited reserves. At that time, they debited the receivable, recognizing the receivable. So on the recognition, yes, we wrote it off based on evidence that someone had delivered on the contractual obligations of the hospital. So it would be misleading for us to leave it there.
Did you see the approval from the minister?
That's what I was trying to look at.
You are now abandoning the claim and writing off public money and store against it. So where the minister seeks to abandon and pretend a claim by the government and the government to write off the loss or the efficiency of public resources, the ministers are even the minister when you are going to
Section 35. Now the question is, and by the way, that's the basis of your qualification.
Does not exceed 10 million.
That's the basis of your qualification. Can you tell us the procedure you went through to write all this? If you have got permission maybe the accounting officer can be able to respond. If you inform the minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Honorable. I want to state that the Treasury instruction is very clear. I think what the PFMA is alluding to is when there is a loss. The process of writing off losses, it has 8 steps. Yeah? First, you have to first know that you define it as a loss. The difference between this case we are handling in Hoima is because it is not a loss of public funds. The steps being alluded to are when there is a loss. For example, someone went in the vaults and stole public funds. There is a police case, and there is history. Because to call it a loss, there is a process. Now, once it is recognized as a loss, the Treasury instructions are clear, the 8 steps. The accounting officer makes consultations with rights to Accountant General, rights to PSST, up to the minister, when the minister gives authority. But also, before write-off of a loss, there must be investigations, thorough ones, and a forensic on how the loss happened. That's when you can write off a loss. But the case in Hoima is different.
Mr. Chairman, on page 1 of your responses, that's paragraph, the assets,
Write-off relates to repayments.
Why are you calling it write-off?
Why are you calling it write-off?
The act we did.
No, it's a simple question.
This is yours.
This is yours. He's trying to ask, why are you then calling it a write-off?
Yes.
The assets is write-off. Payment, advance payment, contractors were still outstanding by the financial year, they were completed, hence the write-off.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, I want to clarify. The language of write-off was a language adopted in the query.
Why do you adopt a language that you don't believe? Why did you define it? Because you see, when you're offering an explanation and you use the same language, the same word, it means you are actually buying it. You wrote your write-off. And if you're saying the write-off is supposed to be for losses only.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For us, okay, in accounting terms, when any item...
My friend, don't educate us. We are not here for education.
Okay. My apologies.
We're just getting you where your staff is. And this is, by the way, for your information, the basis of your qualification. You have a qualified account based on the 79 million. That the way you have been able to do your adjustment has not been correct.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies for the language used in the accounts, but I'm here in person to clarify.
But you say writing book if it was letter, what were you writing book?
Yes. Honorable members, the act of removing these figures, any figure from any books, is an act of write-off. But what is paramount is the reason for write-off, in my own understanding. The reason for writing off these assets was not because there was a loss, a confirmed loss. The reason for write-off was because the contractor had delivered on his obligation, and we were writing off to avoid misleading the public that we still owe someone. Because when I took over the vote in January this year, in January last year, my first question to the exiting accountant was, why are you still recognizing that you have assets worth that much? The explanation I got from him was that they had been debating on the best way to approach it because it had been in their books. So me, what I did, I investigated the matter, went to the zenith of it, and got the very reason as to why they were having those issues. I have a schedule here with me of exactly what were the amounts involved, and that total figure of 600 of that total figure
600.
600 I got to know.
671.
Yes. Sorry? Yes, that amount. I investigated it, and I was satisfied that this person, these funds relate to a contractor. But as you know, sometimes these are manual entries in the system, in the IFMS. An accountant who is not curious will leave them hanging in the books. But I was curious enough, I saw them and got to the bottom of them and said, we can't mislead the public, we must remove these figures from our books, but with a reason. But if I had known it was a loss, if it was a loss anyway, I knew I had to follow the 8 steps as per the Treasury instructions, whereby the accounting officer has to involve the board and also minute, and then the due process follows up to the minister for write-off. But this wasn't the case.
You pay the contract according to the certificate, completion certificates. Is it so? I thought the advances, as you pay the contractor, you recover. So can you show us the schedule of how you were recovering? You have advanced. Mr. Chairman, first of all, we may need to have the guarantee where these advances guaranteed. So we need a copy of bank guarantees that they were guaranteed. So as the certificates are issued, as you pay the contractor, you recover this one. Were you doing that?
Definitely.
Were you doing that? Were you recovering as you pay the contractor, or you waited up to the end?
Okay. Thank you, Honorable. Okay. Thank you, Honorable. At the moment, I can't be able to I don't have the information, but as an accountant on my side, when I arrived, I only had to look at the asset, if it exists or not, and I wouldn't put an asset which doesn't exist. But we are going to work with procurement to look at the modality of the recovery.
Mr. Chairman, this does not require procurement. You advance somebody 600 million. Now he has done work worth 300 million. I think the procedure is when you are paying, you recover that one.
Yes.
So that one you cannot say, you can't remember, yet it was a query and you answer.
Thank you, Honorable. Definitely, they recovered. Because if they hadn't recovered...
How were you recovering? You left the money with the contractor, and then you were paying the contractor.
They recovered.
No.
As if you're not in it actually in terms of the recovery. You see, definitely they recovered. Who recovered? So you're not there to tell us that you were part of it?
No, Honorable, I was not yet in the boat.
That one we have stopped this question of saying, this thing happened when I was not there. This thing has happened when I was not yet there. I was in somewhere. Then you come and then you start complaining that it was the previous man who was there. I replaced who was under the list. No. When you're entering an office, you inherit assets and liabilities, all. So you can't come and start complaining that the person who was there physically went away with the office. The office remained, the documents remained, everything remained in that office that you're supposed to. Yes, Honorable Wangura, then you come.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, for the record, Frederick Angura, a member of this committee. Sorry, Chair, for coming late. Chair, the accountant has tried to educate us on how we took over office. And in his statements that I have captured, when he took over, he investigated, as among others, this liability to ensure whether it was not a liability, but also confirmed the existence of the asset originating from the contractor's obligation. And I think that was good enough that you interested yourself. But I think this would have been a simple matter if you had not mixed up the write-off and also getting correct entries to exit this query. and you are aware that your statement, your accounts are qualified, and as among others, it's originating from this very issue that we are discussing. Now, I would wish to assist you, or you should have assisted yourself from the very beginning. You had opportunity to exit as part of your meetings with the Auditor General, where I would want to believe you should have managed this to get it out of these accounts. So I don't know whether you had an exit meeting with the Auditor General. Then two, as you investigated this contractor and his contractual obligation, both on our side as government and also on his side of delivering the asset, you should have also interested yourself in looking at all the certificates and payments against those certificates, and therefore recovery in respect to the guarantee. You should have also looked at that. And of course, as Chair has said, you inherit both assets and liabilities of this entity. Just from the very time you interested yourself in looking at this liability, you should have also now armed yourself with all the certificates of this contractual obligation and the guarantee, and we just do offsets. Then your issues would have remained entry issues, which you would have reconciled with the Auditor General easily, or even which we can reconcile here. This is an evidence-based committee. It takes us quite many hours to sit here on something that would take 30 minutes. This one you would have put the certificates on the table. This was first certificate, second certificate, this was the guarantee, and we conclude this. Then we will either look at Auditor General why he faulted you on something that is on paper. It takes 30 minutes, 1 hour, and the meeting is done. But you make our work difficult by educating us, recycling. You know, when you ended in the senior 6 or senior 4, at times you mix up our, but we are privileged that we are able to be even beyond you in some of these explanations you're giving. But we want to make life easier for you and also easier for us, because we have a lot of luggage as far as these responsibilities are concerned. So, as an evidence-based committee, can you just lay the evidences, the certificates, and so on the table, and we exit this query here, and we move to the next thing?
Mr. Chair. Thank you. Yes, Honorable Moses.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Hioma Moses. I represent Hioma County as a member of Parliament, and I'm a member of this committee. I've taken time to listen to the gentleman, and when I look at this asset that emanates from the contract management, one, if the contractor was advanced money, he must have submitted a guarantee. A guarantee such that in case he does not fulfill his obligation, then he will recover the money from the person who guaranteed. That's one. Two, as this contractor performed on his obligation, in the subsequent payments, it was an obligation of your entity to recover from this contractor. And in the event that the entity did not recover from this contractor, it means that there was connivance between the contractor and the accounting team of the entity. Therefore, in my own understanding, we should not be entertaining a write-off emanating from the contractual obligation, except if there was no bank guarantee. And if there was bank guarantee, we had two options: to recover from the bank, the bank that guaranteed the contractor, or recover from the subsequent payment. Therefore, much as you said you are an expert in accounts, I really find it very awkward to have a write-off emanating from the contract management. Secondly, Mr. Chair, allow me send another question to maybe the accounting officer. I have been able to look at the financial position of the hospital. I am puzzled to imagine whether the hospital doesn't have any inventory. I don't know how you regard the medicine, the drugs in the store, because when you look at your inventory, you find the hospital doesn't have inventory. And I understand there should not be any time that the hospital is out of drugs. So when you look at your accounts and you find a hospital with nothing on inventory, you really wonder. So as this gentleman prepares to concede that this is an error in accounts, the accounting officer should also prepare to enlighten us on how a hospital at any time can be out of drugs. Not even is banned. So you can see that these accounts are actually, I can term them as manufactured accounts.
Yes, accounting officer. 1 minute, then let you guys.
Mr. Chairman, what I do know is that the inventories were there, but the preparation of the accounts, there may be something lacking. I require that my colleague submits concurrently.
Mr. Chairman, accounting, why did you sign? It is you who signed the document. And you're the one who signed this document?
Yes, I signed.
You signed?
But
why did you sign?
Mr. Chairman,
it's a wrong document.
Mr. Chairman, I signed.
And it is illegal to present false documents to this country.
Mr. Chairman, I signed, but I requested that my colleague, who was in depth into the preparation, first submits. Then possibly I can also authoritatively say something.
So you have delegated that function?
I'm begging that he first submits, Honorable. I haven't.
Yes, accountant.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable, yes. The inventory, Accountant General can attest. We've got the Board of Survey. A Board of Survey is conducted, and we have a Board of Survey report out for Hioma Hospital. We shall present it since it details all those inventory.
But Mr. Officer, really this one is common sense. It's a financial position showing the status of the hospital, and I imagine at all times it's a balance sheet. I imagine that all the times you must be having what? Some drugs, at least Panadol. So a regional hospital with zero balance of the inventory. What are you talking about, the Board of Survey? Okay. The Board of Survey, it means that the officials from the district came to your entity and carried out inventory check to ascertain the inventory balances. And you want to say that there was nothing in terms of drugs?
I would like, thank you, Honorable, for that further probe. I would like the Accountant General to maybe help me clarify on this.
No, it's not you. It's not you.
Because
the Accountant General.
Okay.
Accountant General, we are the ones to request.
Because right now we are using the modified cash basis of accounting. For example, the next question would be, why? Because we also hold, the hospital has cars, not only inventory. It has cars, it has land, it has buildings. So the next question probably would be, why don't we have the land and buildings also as well in the accounts? The current guidance we have from the Accountant General under the modified cash basis of accounting is not to put fixed assets. physical fixed assets into the books of accounts. So this is guidance we are getting.
Drugs fixed assets.
Because when you look at the balance sheet, inventory, because all assets were guided by Accountant General that we should not disclose all assets inside the face of the accounts. That's why I was saying Accountant General.
Can we have a copy of that directive? Communication. So that we take it up.
So I would like, that's why I was saying Accountant General.
Can we have the directive?
Yes. You are not supposing the Accountant General is not here.
Yes.
That's what we are asking you. The guidance given by the Accountant General should have been in written form, and you should have a copy of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't just say this is an evidence-based committee.
Okay.
You cannot just come and narrate it like you're telling us history.
Okay. We shall present to you.
You think the truth.
Yeah.
So where is the proof? Where is the letter from the Accountant General?
Because this is a matter arising. We are going to present to you the communication from Accountant General as per the financial reporting template that we don't put physical assets, be it cash, into the, but rather be it inventory in the accounts.
Can you put any law that stops you from including the drugs and the building in the balance sheet?
I can't quote a law, but currently the Accountant General is moving from modified to accrual-based accounting. The project is ongoing. The system has been enabled with asset registers.
Are you the spokesperson of Accountant General?
The Accountant General already approached us at our votes, respective votes. He wrote.
How did they approach you?
Through the accounting officer,
is there
Honorable Chair. We shall present that later as well on new asset module from Accountant General. Otherwise, it's not our hospitals making, but it's guidance from Accountant General not to put buildings, land, inventory into the books, because we are currently doing a modified cash basis of accounting as the Republic of Uganda. But we are going to move to accrual very soon, where you'll see all those assets in the books. For example, you have like Ministry of Energy. The next will be, they are in charge, a ministry like water is in charge of lakes, rivers, all those. They will need to find a valuation of all those assets of government and see how to put them in the books. But currently the guidance we have is not to put these assets.
So can you provide evidence of that guidance?
A report called the Board of Survey, which I alluded to earlier.
So can we have a copy of that Board of Survey?
And Mr. Chairman, when you look at page 36, I can see some of the statement of stores and other physical assets at the end of the year. For example, you have a record of this medical treatment. You have the residential, non-residential building. These are assets. How are they different from God?
Thank you very much.
Medical equipment.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Honorable, for that very pertinent question. We have been asking the Accountant General the same because currently the system is configured. All these monies you see on reflected here or on page 36 is because the system has been configured in such a way that these monies are put on an item which once you spend and they name it clearly, you are able to adduce that, because once the budget is passed by you honorable members, these monies you appropriate are put directly on those lines, and that's how we're able to adduce that this went to equipment as appropriated by Parliament, and we are able to report it. But when it comes to medicine, the medicine money is budgeted for, but we never receive it in Hioma Hospital or any hospital. These monies are approved, but there is a procurement entity for government for medicine. That is the National Medical Stores. So the National Medical Stores is the one which receives the cash and goes and buys for all government entities. In my books, I never receive this money for.
But when you receive drugs, how do you account for those drugs?
Thank you. Maybe the director can help, but what I know, the Ministry of Health has a system, a monitoring system, inventory management system, whereby once the National Medical Stores delivers trucks of these medicines, after they have handled the cash and brought us hard medicine, the medicine is managed by a stores person, and the pharmacist, which medicine is entered in the stores system, and that's where it's managed under that system of Ministry of Health.
So you have no role to play over the medicine that you receive at the regional hospital?
Yes, me as accountant, I don't have a role because, first of all, the funds are budgeted and given to national medical stores. That means cash hands off. I have no control over that cash.
But we are
the medicines are received
Mr. Officer, we are not talking of cash. In any case, a hospital should be interested in drugs, not cash.
Can I make this point first before I forget? Once these medicines are